Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast, way out there in Hawaii, the Northern Mariana Islands, America Samoa. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast, where we just turned into the afternoon. It's a nice enough day out there. I'm pretty good mood. I'm really good mood because I like the topic we're going to be talking about today around LinkedIn newsletters. It's something I do really well and I do often, right? But it's not what I teach. It's not I am an expert at it, but it's not what I teach out there. It's not my business. And so it'll be a lot of fun to just tell you how I use LinkedIn and how I especially grew my newsletter. But I wanted to give a tip for those of you showing up early and on time, which I really appreciate that you do. When you show up early and on time and you engage, et cetera, on LinkedIn, LinkedIn pushes the word out to everybody else and says, hey, Neil's gone live. You should join us. So thank you for that. My tip for you is to buy this book called Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty. And this by Harvey Mackay. The first time I read this book was back in early 2000. I signed my books when I read them. And this one, the first time I signed it was 2004, but I know I was dealing with Harvey before that because I actually volunteered at his events. And that's how I used to get free tickets when I didn't have money. Anyways, the book is called Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty. And the whole point of it is networking. That's what we're going to talk about with the newsletter to a degree, is the newsletter is just part of your network. And, when you think about a newsletter and you have subscribers, well, those people are now in your network. And so what Harvey talks about is building a network before you ever need them. One of my favorite ways of building a network is I connect obviously on LinkedIn, but I just constantly give. I give of my knowledge. I share here on LinkedIn. I give if somebody asks for an introduction. I'm like, sure, I'll make the introduction. And if I ever need to turn back, I have a pretty good feeling that I've deposited into my network bank enough that I could probably ask for some help myself. And it's the same thing you want to do, whether you're asking for kind of a free introduction type thing, or whether your network is your federal buyer or whatever buyer you're going after. You're giving into them so that when you reach back out and ask for something or tell them that, hey, I'd like to talk to you about what I sell, they're ready to receive you. So the book is called Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty. Maybe someone to throw that in the chat for me. But that's just a quick tip for those of you showing up early and on time. And now let me get to my slides. We're going to go rocking and rolling. In today's training, I want to talk to you about my success in LinkedIn using their LinkedIn newsletter feature. And so I've had a lot of success in there. Obviously, I'm in the federal market. I'm going to talk to you about how I stood up a LinkedIn newsletter and had a lot of success with it. You can use a LinkedIn newsletter to attract thousands of buyers. I'm in the federal market, and so I primarily talk to people who are in the federal market. This training will actually be good for anybody who wants to use LinkedIn newsletter because I'm actually talking about it at a much more higher level, LinkedIn level, rather than federal market level. But there's there's millions and millions of people on LinkedIn. I think there's almost 1 billion. I know it was like 800 million or something. And so you can attract those buyers that you want to be reaching with a newsletter that has quality content in it that they want to read and follow to see what else you put out in there. And an interesting thing that I noticed when I was preparing my training for you is that if you don't know this, I have 41,000 followers on LinkedIn. And for the government space, that is a ton, right? That's kind of like viral, if you will. I've done a really good job building up my followers. But I have in my newsletter, I have 26,000 subscribers. And half of those subscribers are not connections of mine. So that means I'm increasing by 10, 13,000 the number of people who are aware of me at that kind of first level. And so a newsletter is able to do that, is to help me reach more people. And I think that's a really good thing for you as well. If you have a LinkedIn newsletter, you'd be amazed on who's out there. You won't even know sometimes who's out there and learning about you because of your newsletter. There's this great line that says people buy from those they know, like, and trust. And that's a pretty much truism. I've been in sales a long time, and that's exactly how it is, especially people buying from those they know, right? That should be fundamental. If I don't know that Safeway exists, I can't go to that grocery store. If I don't know this place exists, I can't go there. And if I don't know you exist, I can't buy from you. And so people buy from those they know, like, and trust. Well, a newsletter could help get you known. And that's a really good thing. And that's one of the things I want to share with you today. Just a quick note, in case you're not really tracking on who I am, I put down a little bit of why should you listen to me about newsletter. And so the first thing is I have 26,000 subscribers. My newsletter is the largest GovCon newsletter in the federal space on LinkedIn, right? It's 26,000. It's bigger than the Department of Defense's own newsletter. it grows rapidly, about 148 new subscribers average over the last year, every single week, right? Sometimes I have really peak weeks that go well over 200, and other times it might dip a little bit when I'm not active on there. But over the last year, every single week, imagine that 148 new people not only know me, but begin to follow me and say, hey, I want to track what's going on. When you put a newsletter out, I want LinkedIn to tell me. That's 148 people. How would that help your business, right? If you had 148 people wanting to track on what you're putting out there. I've written 172 articles. I didn't actually go back and see how long I've been doing it, but I would estimate it's about 4 years because that feature hasn't been around forever. And then the other thing is, I don't know if I'm going to talk about this in my slides, but when I put out a newsletter article, and I just put one out this morning, for example, when I put a newsletter article out and I have 26,000 subscribers, LinkedIn sends an email to roughly half of them. And it's, to see how many of them engage on email, and they might send another email as a follow-up to the other folks. But I have a 40% open rate on my newsletter. That means people see the LinkedIn email with the subject line that is my newsletter article title, and they choose to click on it, right? That's why you should listen to me. It's because I know what I'm doing on standing up a newsletter. I've got some really good, I don't like hacks or secrets, but just really process tips, tactical tips on how you can make sure that you come out of the gate. If you haven't got a newsletter yet, you come out of the gate strong. And I have tactical tips on once you're out, how do you keep building at the pace I'm building? So if you're looking forward to this, put LinkedIn Rocks into the chat. Hopefully some are already tracking on that. LinkedIn Rocks into the comment, into the chat. Let me know that you're tracking on what I want to share today. I'm going to break up today's training into 3 steps. First step you need to do before you start with a newsletter is you need to remember that people are going to look at you. So you need to look good on your personal profile on LinkedIn before you create a LinkedIn newsletter. And I'll talk to you about that. Second step you need to do is before you launch a newsletter, follow these prerequisite steps I'm going to tell you. It's very important because you can only launch once. And I've seen people do this over and over again, and they kind of launch and peter out and go down. And it's because they weren't prepared to launch. And what they do is they miss out on the value of LinkedIn pushing it out to all of its network if it thinks what you're putting out is worth it to its audience. And then the final step 3 is I'm going to give you top ways that I use to gain LinkedIn newsletter subscribers week after week, right? Average 148 new subscribers every week. How can you do that at your pace, right? You're not going to do 148, but you can certainly do a predictable amount, and you can watch that amount grow as you do more with your newsletter. So that's what we're going to talk about today. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I am the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I am founder of Call Plan AI. And I want to welcome you to my federal sales training where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner after I got out of the Army. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we have repeatable, predictable results. And this is what I want for you. It's why I come back all the time. This is exactly what I can give you on repeatable, predictable results for your newsletter. So I'm excited about that. If you haven't followed me already on LinkedIn, make sure you do, and make sure you subscribe to my newsletter, Government Contracting Success, and I'll showcase that in a minute. One last thing I just want to point out tomorrow's training. Tomorrow I'm going to be doing, I think, my very first introduction to government contracting. Usually I do training where it's designed for people who are already here with kind of helping people who are new. Tomorrow, it is 100% about helping people who are new. How do you get started in government contracting? What would I tell you to do? And what would I do myself? So I'll share that tomorrow. If you know anybody who's getting into government contracting and they're looking for that early stuff, tell them to come over and I'll give them tactical tips. Okay, do me a favor, before we go too far, just let me know in the chat or in the comments. I'm curious right now whether you follow newsletters at all. Like just in LinkedIn, do you follow them or subscribe to them and use them on a regular basis? Just put yes newsletter, no newsletter. Hopefully at the end of this, not only will you be inspired to really make sure you track it on mine, but you'll go out there looking for others because there are people with really great newsletters. All right, step one, let's talk about this. You need to look good on your own personal profile on LinkedIn. When you put a newsletter out, it's going to drive traffic back. People are going to look, people you know and who are connected with you are going to look at the newsletter and be reminded of who you are, right? And they're going to click on your name and follow it back. And I'll show you that in a second. They're going to follow it back and they're going to come back to your profile. That profile needs to represent you well. So before you launch a newsletter, let's just make sure you understand what you need to do to look good. I'm going to give you some tips on what to do to look good, but I put my sister Cecilia in there because she runs a business called LinkedIn for GovCon. So if you're looking to get your personal profile together, that's her, right? But I'll give you the quick tips on what you need to do. So the first thing is your headline. And I'm going to show this to you in a second. I'll switch over to LinkedIn. But the headline needs to grab their attention. And this is the thing that's right below your name that says, we do this, this, and this. And I'll show you. The second thing is, when they're in the newsletter and they click on it, they're going to come back to your profile and see your banner. That needs to reinforce the promise that was in your headline. Again, I'll show that to you in a second. And then there's 4 sections I really want you to pay attention to as you come down your personal profile. You don't need to kill yourself on this, but what's there needs to reinforce the message that they followed when they came into your profile. People click on your profile to view it because whatever your headline was, or whatever you say in a comment or something, it inspires them to go, let me learn more. Well, you don't want them to come to learn more and then just fall flat, right? And so let me show you really quickly what I'm talking about. So I think you can see my newsletter. So this is my newsletter right now. And a couple of things I want you to see. So this is an article that I wrote recently, and I don't want to talk about all of it just yet, but the thing I wanted you to track on is right here's the newsletter, right? And so down here is my name. That's the part I'm talking about with your personal profile. If somebody sees this newsletter article, they're like, wow, Navy's looking for small business suppliers, right? Who's this person writing this article? And they're going to look right here and see Neil McDonald. And I don't know if you can see this underneath my name, but that's my headline. And my headline says, helping federal GovCons win more contracts with process. Join 25,000 plus others and subscribe to my newsletter. Right. And by the way, the reason for that second sentence is because it is really important for me to grow my subscribers. That is a great way for me to really engage my audience. But that first sentence, helping federal GovCons win more contracts with process. If that's not you, if you're a banker doing something else, you're like, that doesn't interest me. That's great. But if that headline attracts somebody like a small business who's looking to grow, they're going to go, let me check this Neil guy out. Right. And I'm going to just click on my name, open a new tab here. And when they come over, they're like, okay, the first thing I said was the banner. That's the first thing we see when we come to your profile. And it says, helping small businesses win federal contracts, right? Remember I said the headline was helping federal GovCons win more contracts with process. I'm kind of reinforcing the message by putting the exact same message up here, right? I can tweak it. I probably will pretty soon, but that's a good reinforcement. It doesn't give them something else. And it also doesn't have this whole bunch of real estate up there that doesn't say anything, right? If all I had was the Capitol building across, it's like, well, that's cool and all, that doesn't tell me anything. So I reinforced it. And then let me just check my slides to make sure I come back the right way. I forgot my tips. Wait 1 second. So then banner, confirm. Okay, got it. Okay, so then they're going to come down, right? And when they come down, there's these 3 sections, and you may or may not have turned them on yet. But if you have, there's an about section. And so you want something there. Here I say, I help small businesses become successful government contractors. That reinforces what they've seen so far. And then the next slide, after spending 20 years as a small business owner, that tells them it's like this guy at least is in our world, right? It doesn't tell them yet that he's an expert, but everything is reinforcing what they saw in my name on my newsletter when they clicked. And I'm reinforcing to them that I am who they think I am. And so for you, it might be cybersecurity or it might be facility support, whatever it is, right? These things need to reinforce. There's a line here that says see more. I have come to believe it doesn't matter because people don't click on the see more. You definitely want some stuff in there for other reasons. But these 3 lines that you see at the top, these are vital because people will see it. And then coming down, you can add this service section. And I just added a tweak in there that was something different. And then the featured section. These are basically articles or posts that you can put in. You can put anything you want. You can put a little video. You can put a PDF in there. But these featured articles, these 3 are really important because they reinforce what you're trying to communicate your expertise is. And then the last thing I'll show you is just down here in the experience section. You need to have an experience section that actually says something, right? So I lead a GovCon in a Box team down here as president of the GovCon chamber. I've spent 20 years. And then GovCon professional, I just list out my quals down there. And so these things are important for you to be able to track. And again, you can talk to my sister, Cecilia, and she'll help you get squared away. Otherwise, just follow all sorts of advice on Google to grow your LinkedIn profile the right way. But it all starts with right here when somebody clicks on your name in the newsletter. So that's step one, looking good on your profile. Because if somebody's going to come there, you want to make sure you look good. If you understand what I'm saying, put "I look good" in the chat. Let me see how many of us are feeling comfortable enough to say "I look good" in the chat. I want other people who are not in our training to go, "What the heck are they talking about?" All right, while you do that, let's talk about step two. Step two are this, I think, is the most important thing. It's really important on the profile, step one, yes, but step two is the most important thing in my mind before you launch in order to have the biggest, best launch you can. Because you can always come back and fix step one as you continue to grow, but you can never come back and do step two. Step two is preparing to launch your newsletter. So in LinkedIn, when you launch your newsletter, you only get one shot. And for those of you who track this, yes, they've got this option for other newsletters, but it doesn't help at all. You only got one shot to come out of the gate before things start going either really well or really bad, right? And when I say really well, it's just on an upward trend. There you go. I appreciate it. Chris Moffitt gets credit for the extra O's, and I look good. Okay, so let me give you the prerequisites. First thing you need to do on your newsletter, if you can't remember mine is government contracting success, right? It's like pretty boring, but really, really clear. It's just a clear name that says, oh, so you talk about success as a government contractor, right? Make sure yours is that clear. Elevator maintenance tips, something like that. Don't try to be clever. When you're clever, I'm confused. I'm like, I don't know what that is. I'll come back later, or I don't know. But if you say something I care about, for example, I'm launching Call Plan AI, which is my new SaaS product. If there's a newsletter that says how to succeed as a SaaS founder, I don't need anything else. I'm going to click on it. I might read an article or two before I hit subscribe, but I'm pulled in because it's speaking to me. Make sure you're creating a newsletter with a clear name that speaks to your target audience. Don't target everybody. In my opinion, target your customers, right? Second thing is, this is really minor, but you could say that your newsletter is daily, weekly, monthly. Just choose weekly. It doesn't matter. The only thing is it says this is a weekly newsletter. Let me see if I can show you. No, I can't see it. I was thinking I'd be able to show you really quick, but what people will see is that it's a weekly newsletter. You don't want to be doing anything longer than a weekly newsletter. More frequent is cool, but you don't want to do like every 2 weeks, 3 weeks. That's too long. You're losing your audience. The third suggestion I'm recommending here at the prep is to make sure you have a signature line at the end with a call to action. And let me show you mine really quick. So every newsletter that I have ends with the exact same thing, right? Don't copy mine exactly, but feel free to, copy it to a degree. Frankly, I don't even care if you copy this whole thing exactly. I'm totally cool with that. Don't copy my content, right? But totally copy my framework. I'm okay with that. But see this? This is my signature. I say, stay connected. I put this little image in there. And I said, join 25,000 other people. Every time I do a newsletter, I change this. So I did the newsletter this morning and I said, join 26,000 other people. And I always put a number down. It's really fun for me to be able to go back and go, what has my growth been like? But I have found other people track on that as well, and they really like it. But it also is kind of a FOMO thing. Well, shoot, if 25,000 people subscribe to Neil's newsletter, it must be decent enough. Let me follow it. And so that's something that I do there. And then also I've got follow me on LinkedIn. So I'm trying to encourage people to click the follow button on my personal profile, and I'm linking to it. The thing that is important to remember is that these are calls to action at the end. Not everybody sees it, but it's there every single time, and it's reinforcing it. And so that's a great way to make sure that the bottom of your newsletter doesn't just peter out. Okay, so that was a couple of things to do ahead of time. Now what I want you to track on is, before you launch your newsletter, write 5 articles. Don't write massively long articles. If you ever want to write a massively long article, first off, reconsider that and think about breaking that up into a series, right? Because you get more people coming in. The second thing is, if you're going to do a really long form article, it's very, very long, that's totally cool. Do it later. Don't do it early on. Early on, figure out 5 articles that speak to your expertise. And so I thought I saw Hillary in here a little bit, but I'm going to pick, so Hillary does staffing, for example. She might sit there and choose to write 5 articles related to staffing. So for example, an article could be the quickest way to find candidates with top secret clearances. You know, what are 3 ways to evaluate a candidate? You know, 5 ways to use AI to do staffing. You know, how to get more staffing, or, you know, why is staffing the best idea for customers? Whatever it is, right? You see where I'm going with that? She picks those. They don't have to be really long, but they have to deliver value, which I think I'll talk about in a minute. They have to deliver value. But what you want is for these articles, these 5 articles, to be ready, because when you launch your newsletter, you want to keep giving value, especially early on, more value, so that LinkedIn pushes it out to more and more people. And more people are like, oh, that's pretty cool. You know, they give it a thumbs up. They're supporting you. They're pushing it out to their friends, etc. And so you want 5 articles and then launch, because if you do that, you pretty much, and I'll tell you about this in a minute, but you've got 2 weeks done, and now you just start writing 1 article a week. And if you only write articles in your newsletter to your expertise, then you can do 1 article a week, no problem. You know, you don't kill yourself. So what I say here is, when you launch something on day 1, and then those 4 other articles are on day 2, day 5, day 8, and day 16. And basically, I'm stretching it out to this point where they become weekly, right? Day 8 and then day 16. Do that, and you'll come out. The other thing I put here is, don't do an intro article. I see people do this a lot, and it's a waste. I'm launching a newsletter. I'm excited, blah, blah, blah. We don't care. I love you, but we don't care, right? Just tell me about staffing, Hillary. Don't tell me you're excited to do a newsletter and try out a LinkedIn feature. We all make that mistake, and I'm trying to save you from that mistake. Is make sure you're writing something that is very helpful right from the beginning, because people won't even realize this is your first article. They'll just realize this is a good article. I like it. Let me give it a thumbs up. Okay, the last thing I want to tell you is, I think I kind of already told you about this, but when you launch, what happens is LinkedIn takes your newsletter and tells everybody, hey, I have launched, and here I am, check it out, right? And that's a huge, huge deal. So they try to see who out there is going to subscribe. And you don't get that again. If you have 1,000 followers or something and they push it out, this is why I'm saying have 5 articles, because they'll push it out and people will start trickling in and visit. But guaranteed you're going to get, 20% of your audience will come in. That's why I'm saying don't waste your time with hi, I'm starting a newsletter. Give them value. They're going to go, oh, thanks. This is awesome. And so that's what happens on a launch. They'll shove it out to your entire connection and follower group. That's the time, that first 1 to 16 days, let's say, that's the time when you're going to get the most members, subscribers to your newsletter. After that, it's just going to get into a steady rhythm. And if you keep your newsletter going, you'll figure out what it is. You'll get 8 new subscribers a week. And then pretty soon you'll watch that number go up 8 to 9 to 10 to 12 to 15 to 20, right? It'll slowly pick up speed. I get a lot of subscribers because I have a lot of subscribers. That's just how life works. Okay, I think I hit everything in there about the launch. That's really important. Let me know in the comments in chat if you got a question. If you have a question, put it in there, because I'll come back afterwards and record a video and answer them all. Okay, so really quickly, I just want to say thank you to today's sponsors, Graham, who does ASL services, American Sign Language services, and staffing, to Steel Toed, who does cybersecurity services and CMMC support services. Call Plan AI, which is my company. If you're looking to start and build relationships, go from first meetings to second meetings in the federal space, come check me out. And then Restream, who I use to push out all of my video content through LinkedIn, through YouTube, et cetera. I use Restream. So they are awesome. I really appreciate the sponsors. Okay, let me talk about step 3, and I got 5 minutes left. Step 3, the top ways I use to grow newsletter subscribers. And I don't know if anybody's here who's got a newsletter, but I'm about to tell you a mind-blowing thing first before I forget it. Here is a way, and I'm going to test it out. And Cecilia, maybe you and I could talk. It'd be fun. I'm going to test it out. But if you have a newsletter that's been out for a little bit, and you want to refresh the visibility, go into your experience section, add a new role, a new company called your newsletter, and you're the newsletter publisher and editor, or whatever you want to put. Think about it. Don't do it half-baked. But if you do it, whenever you do a new position in your experience, LinkedIn says, do you want to tell everybody? I'm like, yeah, tell everybody. I have 26,000 subscribers, but I have 40,000, 41,000 followers. I'm like, wow, I wonder if I can tap into more of these people who maybe aren't paying attention. But if I can wake them up to say, hey, go look at all the stuff I have, I'll attract certainly a lot of the people in there. So that was just an idea I wanted to say that was in my mind as I was talking about step 2. So step 3, one of the most important things to grow your subscribers, and one of the best ways is to write just to one area of expertise in all of your articles in your newsletter. So I mentioned Hillary, for example, stick to staffing. I would encourage her not to talk about the FAR, or not to talk about this thing or that thing. If you're staffing, talk about it. If you do, I know Elizabeth is in here, I think, and she does basically nuts and bolts and manufacturing type stuff. It's like, you could do a newsletter on that. Literally, the people who buy your stuff would be interested in that. You know, where is 3D printing going with nuts and bolts or something? You could write that, but stick to that one area, because then you keep growing subscribers who value this, and they push it to their friends. Just by giving a thumbs up, they push it to their friends. Step 2, keep each article to one topic, and then deep dive into that. This is something I struggle with, especially in training, where I have all sorts of content in one training. In your articles, do the same thing. Try to come down. Whatever you have, make it less. I've seen people go in and put these 3 big sections of a lot of stuff, but they could take one section and just break that out, and then write 2 other articles with the other 2. And it's just a series. People will follow that. Number 3, write it yourself. Don't use AI, or at least I don't use AI at all for LinkedIn newsletters. The inside of LinkedIn, I come up with my ideas. I hit the whiteboard. I write it completely. First off, AI is just no good. But most importantly, you're the expert. We want to hear your thoughts. If you want to use AI in certain other areas, that's fine. But the differentiator in social media, in LinkedIn, is you, like you being you. And the more you can put that in, the better. So really bring your thoughts and experience into your articles for number 3. Number 4, have a purpose, right? I just did an article this morning, and the purpose was to help you understand how to do business with HHS. So everything that was in there was talking to that. And I added a WIFM. What's in it for me, to my readers? Why should they pay attention? Well, because if you're not paying attention to what I'm saying, then you're going to miss out on HHS opportunities. Number 5, and I'm just going to go faster because I'm running out of time. Have a call to action, right? So for me, the article I wrote this morning, my call to action was go register on HHS's supplier portal. My article was about that, and my call to action was go over. Sometimes I say go over there and then tell me, right? Don't sell, by the way, and try your hardest never to send them to your website. LinkedIn doesn't like that. LinkedIn wants you to keep them here. You can tell them later to go to your website. They will figure it out. If they like what you write, they will go figure out how to work with you. Number 6, engage with people. When somebody is engaging on my newsletter, I go in and do a comment. I then, for a little while, go out and see what they're posting and maybe give them some thumbs up. It reinforces the relationship of those subscribers. And then number 7, build your followers and connections by invites, right? So if you reach out and build followers and connections, the newsletter invitation will be sent automatically. And so the more you're seen as an expert out there, the more connections you're making. Literally right now you're in training and there's, let's say, I think today's training is tighter with 50 people, but I have training with like 200 and 400 people. You can connect with them and say, hey, we're both on the training. Let's connect. And the minute you do, it's going to say, hey, Tracy, thanks for connecting. Here's my newsletter. And LinkedIn does that automatically. All right. So those are ways that you can grow your network. Here's what I want you to remember from today's training. I realize it's fast. Go back and watch it. It's really tactical. But here's what you need to remember. Before you launch your newsletter or right now, refresh your profile so you look great to the person looking at your profile. Second thing is over prepare before you launch. That means those 5 articles. Number 6, make it easy for the articles to be read by including that with them, right? What's in it for me as a reader of your newsletter? If you do that, you will grow your newsletter subscribers, which will increase your influence wherever you want to be reaching your buyers or your target audience. Hopefully this makes sense. Just remember, government contracting and pretty much everything, none of it's a secret. It's just a process. I will see you in the next training.